Now, after leaving Tenenbaum and the Little Sisters, Jack makes his way through the sewers and into Olympus Heights. The references to Greek gods can be found all over the place in this level. A place where Fontaine himself, the presumed victor over the war with Ryan, sits aptly above the resting place of his former adversary. It seems an appropriate bit of storytelling that we would find Fontaine here, given that Zeus casts Hephaestus out of Mount Olympus to dwell on earth with the mortals. After all, it is Ryan who rejects religion, instead favoring man as the center of all things, whereas Fontaine seems quite comfortable using religion to further his own agenda, although it is highly doubtful that he has any reverence for faith beyond what it can do to bring him more power. Olympus Heights is where we would expect to find the main players of the Greek pantheon. Zeus, Mercury, Athena, Apollo, and many more reside here. While we won't find all 12 Olympians here, much less in any coherent order, there is something else more significant happening between the main characters in Rapture and how they relate to some of the best known Greek gods and goddesses. This is something best left to one of the final parts of this series when we will discuss the archetypal characters of Bioshock and how they relate to the Greco-Roman pantheon. I had a lot of fun creating that part of the series as well. So now, also, it's just kind of a fun, goofy aside for a moment. What do these signs remind you of? I mean, really look at them for a minute. Now, these struck me as... I'll just show you. Now, I couldn't find anywhere on the internet where this was mentioned before. So this reminded me of something from my childhood. Sesame Street. These signs made me think of Sesame Street. Okay, so this Zen rock garden is the foyer to Fontaine's apartment, which leaves no doubt that his is the grandest of all dwellings at Olympus Heights. This, of course, infers that he has assumed the role of Zeus at Olympic Heights as the king of Rapture, so to speak. Now, speaking of Olympus Heights and Zeus having the most swank apartment, there's a bear prominently placed at the entryway of Frank Fontaine's place. The significance of this bear actually has to do with the story of Callisto from Greek mythology. Callisto was a nymph and said to be a daughter of King Lycaon of Arcadia and a devoted follower of Artemis. Artemis is the Greek goddess of the wild, the moon, and chastity. She was also the patroness and protector of young girls. So this white bear is both fierce and pure, just like Artemis and her followers. Now, as the story goes in Greek mythology, seeing Callisto one day in her human form, Zeus appears to her as Artemis. He takes on the form of Artemis in order to seduce and defile Callisto. And then he takes Callisto as his mistress. Zeus turns, and by the way, we're seeing a lot of parallels between Frank Fontaine and Zeus, right? The behavior, Zeus kind of just does what he wants, and he'll do any kind of treachery and trickery and and that sort of thing to get what he wants, and Fontaine is no different, right? So this parallel between Zeus and Fontaine it exists throughout the entire game, of course. So what does Zeus do? He turns Callisto into a bear to hide the fact that he has a mistress from his wife Hera. So here we have Hera, and Zeus is like, I don't know where this bear came from, and here we have Callisto. Before Fontaine came to Rapture, he wrote Andrew Ryan a series of flattering letters in order to seduce Ryan into trusting him, right? Fontaine succeeded in convincing Ryan that Rapture and everything it stood for was completely in alignment with his own worldview. He was just shining him on, right? However, Fontaine was not faithful despite the overtures he made to Ryan. So he's kind of putting this. He's this very duplicitous character, Fontaine, and of course Zeus is as well. Frank Fontaine's mistress, symbolized by the white bear of Callisto, is the ferocity and purity of the Christian religion. So what I'm saying is a belief that Frank Fontaine himself would never marry. So Frank Fontaine is just using religion. He's not married to it, right? It's just like it's like his mistress, right? It's just like Zeus and Callisto. Zeus has a mistress. He's not really so committed to her. I mean, he just turns her into a bear just to protect his own skin, right? So Fontaine is very much this duplicitous Zeus type of character, right? So Fontaine, of course, is not committed to anything, and he'll use anything for his selfish gain. And this is showing us that Fontaine is, of course, not committed to anything at all, hence his association with solipsism and why he is likened to Zeus. So I think it's just amazing that they actually put Callisto the bear in Frank Fontaine's apartment. It's just brilliant. It should be mentioned then that the developers of Bioshock really did their homework when it comes to Olympus Heights, because Apollo Square, or I should actually say Apollo Square now, because Apollo Square contains Artemis Suites and Hestia Chambers. And these are all three deities that are associated with protection of the innocent. And these, of course, are where the working class live in Rapture. And, of course, the protection part didn't appear to be very effective by all appearances. Not to mention, Fontaine's home for the poor and the Little Sisters Orphanage can also be found in Apollo Square. And not to get too political, but Fontaine's tactics in Bioshock are most definitely inspired by real-life events. The struggle between Fontaine and Ryan really does mirror the enduring struggle of class warfare. And it's a struggle which is often manipulated under false pretenses, something which has been chronicled throughout human history and has come to the forefront yet again today, playing out in the world right before our eyes.